Assalamu alaikum, guys. We're here with Yasin today, and we're gonna be tackling the possessions and jinn and black magic today.
Yeah. So our challenge is on Facebook. I said before that give us your hardest jinn case, your hardest magic case that you feel that's going to attack me, okay, harm me and my family. Bismillah, we'll do it for free. The reason this challenge is on there is because we're there to dispel the myths and superstitions around this. Okay, so many people believe it, yet when you put the challenge to them, then it questions their reality, and then they start thinking, yeah, well, okay, because what will happen is that, and the reason we can say it so confidently is we don't charge for ruqyah, so we got no money to make out of it.
Absolutely.
Yet when you call 9 out of 10 Raaqis who charge, guess what? They're going to say to you, yeah.
Absolutely.
You have got something, and they tell you stories like, oh, I done ruqyah for you. When I went home, I had a headache, and this happened to me, that happened to me, and this is just straight out lies. So to challenge the lies of these Raaqis, we said, look, just give us that case. We'll do it for free.
To be honest, this is actually to help you, those people who are struggling, really, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to find out is actually, you feel like you're going through black magic, etc. So I'm imagining your life is quite difficult at the moment.
Yes.
Okay. In that situation, you're looking for help, right? But are you going for help to the right person, right? So what we want to do is, obviously the brother Yasin wants to go through the whole ruqyah process, and if there is a medical issue, then we want to look into that also. What's causing these, symptoms?
I'll give you a brief example. So many years ago, there was a couple. Okay, his sister, she lost her hair. Okay, she's very weak. She couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do her daily duties, basically. Okay, and so it put strain on the marriage. Went to visit them. The husband and wife said that, look, someone's done something from Pakistan, whatever. They didn't want the marriage to happen, etc. So they live here in the UK. So people have put these ideas in their head. So I pleaded with with the sister and the brother to get the blood test done. Okay. So she got the blood test done. And they didn't want to because they just wanted to go to another Raaqi, right? So when they got the blood test done, there was so many, vitamin D was low, iron low, folic acid was low.
Most common ones,
exactly. Yes. And they weren't just low, they were severely low, okay? And then what happened was, subhanAllah, they went to doctor's clinic actually. They got everything back up. I went 6 months later. We done the ruqyah. Okay, she still reacted, but guess what? Her life is back to normal. Okay, so then I said, look, the jinn doesn't really matter, does it? And they thought about it. They thought, yeah, no, it doesn't, because we're back. Do you know what I mean? She can do it. She was back, like from a person who can't get out of bed, and she looked ghostly, like she's gonna die. Right? From that to you went back, bright. Beautiful, glowing person, and a really bubbly personality.
So if someone's going through a situation where they feel like they've got black magic or jinn, etc., what do you recommend as a Raaqi?
So my first point of call to them, I normally ask, have they had blood tests and whatever done from the doctors? And my suggestion would be from them to get those results and then bring them to a clinic like yours. Okay. Because they'll only have about 8 things on there, okay? Then you can look at those, right? And normally they'll be normal, okay? And then it'll be the other tests that you do, for example, vitamin D, what's the other one? Folic acid, magnesium.
Yeah, B12.
Hormones, okay. So there'll be a whole range of tests that private clinics can do that doctors don't do unless there's an extreme necessity. And when you say to the doctor, I don't feel well, okay, they'll only do a basic check and that'll be it. So most people's issues won't be in the basics, it will be in the extended tests.
When people speak of blood tests, they think a blood test is just a blood test, all the same. But actually it comes down to the biomarkers, what's actually being tested. Now, if you go to a GP, they will only test blood based on the investigation they have. So if you've got a stomach ache, why are they going to check your hormones, for example, right? So they will only do basic checks. With the private blood tests, especially the ones we do, it's very comprehensive. We have maybe 60 biomarkers in this test, anything from white blood cells, red blood cells, liver function, kidney function, gout, diabetes, cholesterol, vitamin, minerals, and a very strong hormone profile. So with this report, you have an overall check, to find out exactly what's happening in your body. And this is not a test that a doctor will do. So, brother, have you had a situation where the patients come to you with complaints of low energy, low mood, just can't, brain fog, and they just can't get through any of their tasks in a day? And, what do you recommend?
You see, we have various cases of like that, and normally that would be related to either vitamin D or hormones. Okay, and the doctor's not going to say that. So if someone's feeling a bit depressed and you go to the doctor, he's going to give you an antidepressant. Why? It's 50p a day.
Absolutely.
Okay, good luck to you. Whereas a whole suite of blood tests with hormones, or let's say something like TRT, okay, that's 800 quid. What's cheaper, to give you 50p a day and say good luck, okay, or TRT?
Actually, the interesting thing here is, one of the stories I always say to my patients is that, look, if you go to a doctor with symptoms of depression, low mood, low energy, etc., and pain in your body, right? The doctor might give you some painkillers and some antidepressants, okay? But
That's right.
this is actually a symptom of a vitamin D deficiency.
Absolutely, yes.
So, brother Yasin, have you ever come across a person who's physically fit, productive, doing things in life, and successful, to come to you with a possession issue?
So that's this really good correlation, because you find that people who look after themselves and look after their health, they generally don't have these ideas, okay? Unless someone puts it in their mind, and then it's not really about themselves, like their body. Like some people say, I'm possessed because I feel weak and this and tired. So we know that's medical. But some successful people, if their business starts going down, okay, or something like that happens, and then someone puts an idea in their head, someone might have done something to you, and then they go, oh, yeah, maybe. But generally, you'll find even those people, they're resilient to any shocks, any whatever, because they're physically fit and mentally fit, And people should understand, physically fit is one thing and mentally fit is another thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Brother Yasin, is there a jinn called trauma?
I think that is the main jinn. For most people who are fit, healthy, no issues whatsoever, I could go and do ruqyah upon somebody, okay? They've got zero symptoms of anything in their life, and guess what? They react, okay? And then we can trace that back down, usually to a trauma, okay, that happened in their life many, many years ago. But they've suppressed it, but that doesn't mean anything because they're just carrying on with life.
When you say trauma, I kind of get it, okay? Because I speak to a lot of people.
Yes.
But if you can share some type of trauma that people could be facing, some kind of like childhood traumas, adult trauma, something that,
So
that
I'll
could be
tell you what,
causing this.
there's an interesting fatwa from Sheikh Uthaymeen, okay? He's one of the Grand Muftis of Saudi Arabia, okay? So he says, do not lock your child, okay, into a cupboard, okay, as punishment, because a jinn could enter them, okay. So you remember we already discussed about religious people being not knowledgeable about mental health, etc. But however, even they realize there's a correlation here, okay. Why? Because some person was doing ruqyah on some patient many years later, and the jinn, obviously, the traumatic personality spoke, and they said to them, well, when did you enter? When did you come? And said, I was in the cupboard. I was hiding there. And when the child came, I came into the child. Can you see? So we could understand that that's when that child experienced trauma, okay? And, it freaked them out max. They developed another personality, which is a coping mechanism, and they've got that with them for life now. So later on, Raaqi does ruqyah, and they said, when did you enter the child, or whatever? And they said, I done it when he was 7 years in the cupboard. Can you see the correlation? One is it's not anything supernatural.
How do people normally display trauma?
It varies well from person to person. So for, say, a brother, it might be anger issues.
Okay,
that generally the brother's really nice. Okay, he's really friendly, really whatever. But all of a sudden, certain things, okay, and even we might know friends like that, all of a sudden they switch from 0 to 100 instantly, okay, and when you see them, they're not themselves. You said, that's not really the brother I know. Do you know what I mean? And if you speak to the brother, they'll acknowledge, look, bro, that's not really, I don't know what happens to me, yeah? And when you trace that back, you'll find it somewhere in their childhood, that something occurred.
So, any examples how females normally show trauma?
My trauma. So, from a Ruqyah perspective, I had this. So, females sometimes will show it in avoidance.
Okay.
Okay. So, the sister, for example, she had trauma with, say, a male before. And so, whenever it came to marriage, and she said the guy's good, the family's good, everything is perfect. But whenever the idea came to her of her being close and trusting this person, she would flip out. Okay.
Trust issues.
Yeah. Okay. But that would be quite severe in her. Okay. She would completely change and just be irrational. And then once the person would go away and you talk to her, she said, I don't know what I've done that for. Right. It's really good. Yeah. Is this jinn or magic? Actually, I don't know why. And that would be another form of trauma from sister's perspective.
So, what are the most common childhood trauma that people may have?
So it starts from abuse, okay, and abuse has varying scales, okay, and also it depends on the children as well. So you may have sensitive children, okay, that you have to, as a parent, be aware this one's not the same as that one, etc. And some of them might take the hard personality, others won't, they'll break, okay. So, like in Asian culture, beating is quite normal, right?
Yeah.
And not every child can take that.
Absolutely.
Okay, and some parents go over the top. It's not, when I say beating, I don't mean tapping little like
Yeah.
they go full on.
Yeah. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I remember the masjid I was when I was younger, and they had a stick. So, are there a lot of children that suffer from, black magic?
Okay, so on this one, brother, I mean, when I speak to adults and they don't take my advice, that's fine. Okay. But I would be impassioned on this one to any adult, please. Okay. On this occasion, listen to me. Get your children tested with extended blood tests. Why? Because they're in a growth phase. Okay. They're in a developmental phase. And if they're deficient in those things, it can actually affect their character and their personality as they're growing up. Okay.
Absolutely.
And you're going to just keep going to Raaqi 1, Raaqi 2, Raaqi 3 until it's too late. So this is why it's so important to get children tested via people like yourselves. So I had an interesting case, okay, where people would say to some brother, you've eaten the seher.
Okay.
Or the sister's eaten the seher.
Right.
Based on stomach upsets and stomach not being well or bloating and stuff like this. And sometimes you recite and, it bloats and it goes down and whatever. Okay, but it's not changing anything. Okay, so blood test proved okay. What do you suggest in my
So I tell you, the interesting thing is, most of those cases actually be a food intolerance. So just give you a story about a child that we had. She was struggling in school, not able to focus. She was very skinny, hair was bad, skin was bad, and all of her brothers and sisters were healthy and fit. So what was the reason? So we done a food intolerance test from her, and she was intolerant to bread, to milk, and to eggs. And these are the main foods she was eating on a daily basis. So when we actually cut the foods from her, and all these symptoms of her having bloated stomach, gassy, bad skin, bad hair, it all improved, right? And even though to the point where she's now really progressing at school. So sometimes, when you think that maybe you've eaten sihr, it might actually not be the sihr as people mentioned. It might be just a food, right? Or a spice or a vegetable, something that's kind of causing you those issues.
Exactly, and it can happen at any stage in life.
Absolutely, and it's an immune response. It's not necessarily itch. It could be, I don't know, it could be anything anybody reacts.
Yeah. Brother, you mentioned food intolerance tests. And just as I'm skeptical of jinns and magic, I'm skeptical of most food intolerance tests.
See, you have
now, hold on a second, brother. I checked, okay, there were two types of food intolerance tests. The one's based on hair and one based on thing. And when I checked their efficiency, most stats were there's like under 50%. You might as well just toss a coin.
Do you know what? I'll tell you the difference is.
Okay.
There's a lot of clinics out there that are doing, they call it bioscience testing. Okay. So what they're doing is either you can do by put your hands on the machine, it sends an electromagnetic pulse through
I don't
to
believe
the ranges. Number one. Number two, they put the exactly same, testing in the hair.
Yeah.
Or they even do the blood nowadays.
Right.
Now the problem here is it's actually not scientifically proven or has any weight at all.
Exactly.
Okay, and it's something that people use to make money, right?
Oh,
Now the test that we do is a very advanced test. In fact, you can't. There is no machine in UK that does it. We have to send it to Europe, right? Now the difference is here is if you can remember in the olden days they used to put allergens on your wrist.
That's right.
Now if it's reactive, it's a clear-cut reaction to your blood, isn't it? You got allergy, right? Now what we do in this advanced test, right? You have 300 allergens. It's all in a cartridge, 300 little holes in there, allergen inside. Now they put your blood on top of those allergens, put it in the machine and see what the reaction is, right? So the difference is now, if you have a look at this blood test, right, there's ranges for every type of different allergen or food type, okay? So as you can see, if it's below 5, you're fine. And if it's above 5, depending, look, we got one here which is 40 for somebody, right? So it shows you your blood is actually reacting to that. So I would say to you, if you're having any type of intolerance test or an allergy test and it doesn't have a range on top, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like red, green, amber. It doesn't mean anything. You need to see
what is the
range.
name of this test or this type of test?
This is actually, this particular name for this test is called a Fox Explorer or an Alex Explorer test.
Fox Explorer, Alex Explorer test.
It's probably more advanced intolerance testing out there.